Welcome to Horror Year, where every story is a journey into the unknown. If you're brave enough to face your darkest fears and uncover the most chilling tales, you've come to the right place. So, dim the lights, turn up the volume, and subscribe to Horror Year. Your journey into terror begins now. Forget about the ghostly toys and Hollywood horrors you've seen before. We're delving into the tale of Robert today, a real doll who has been so vilified that he has been held responsible for years of mayhem, terror, and terrifying experiences. Robert's narrative, which was created more than a century ago and given to a small child named Jean Otto, has developed into one of the most unsettling paranormal legends ever. This doll's impact extends well beyond his glass display in the Fort East Martello Museum, as evidenced by strange sightings, sinister pranks, and uncanny whispers. Are you prepared to find out why Robert the doll is so genuinely terrifying? The sound of furniture crashing hard to the floor startled the pair into waking in fear. They hurried to their son's room in a panic, fearing what might be within. They rushed inside, expecting to find an intruder watching their frightened son. But instead, they discovered their son curled up in a corner, his eyes wide with terror. His shaky finger gestured to Robert, his beloved doll, who was sitting still at the foot of his bed. The story of Robert, the most haunted doll in the world, is far more terrifying than any Hollywood script, so forget about Annabelle. The famous Steiff business made the doll in Germany in 1904, and Robert Eugene Otto received it as a gift from his grandfather. The child, who went by Jean, loved his life-sized doll so much that he dressed him up in a sailor uniform and carried him around. Before odd events started to happen, the two were inseparable. Things vanished, things broke, and Jean kept insisting, "It wasn't me," when his parents became irate. Robert was the one. Until one fateful night altered everything, they brushed his assertions aside as the product of a child's imagination. Jean's parents woke up late one night to the sound of chaos coming from their son's room. The bookcases were overturned, clothes were all over the floor, and the furniture was in complete chaos when they hurried in. But in the midst of the devastation, Robert the doll remained undamaged, sitting on the bed and staring with his glassy, dark eyes. Talking to the doll as though it were alive only strengthened Jean and Robert's friendship. His parents, however, started to hear a different voice respond. Only Jean and Robert would be in the room as they hurried in, and when they asked Jean a question, he would merely point to the doll. Chaos would break out whenever Robert became angry, as Jean explained. Toys would be torn apart, furniture would move on its own, and occasionally the eyes of other dolls would be plucked from their heads. Even the kids in the neighborhood avoided Jean's house. Robert was left on a chair by the window by his parents while Jean was out. The doll was gone when the kids who were walking by looked again after swearing they seen it sitting there. Robert had the uncanny tendency to disappear and then reappear in the window, his glassy eyes trailing people. As the years went by, Jean matured, moved out, and pursued a career in art. After getting married, he brought Robert back to the house where he grew up. The doll, however, disturbed his wife, who insisted that it be kept hidden in the attic. However, Robert would not remain confined. Instead, he would frequently reappear to the window, perhaps anticipating Jean's return. Chilling incidents were reported by visitors to their house. Some claimed to have discovered Robert in unexpected locations, including next to their bed, or to have heard footsteps in the attic. Occasionally, unseen forces caused objects to glide across the room, frequently while Robert's glass eyes were watching them from his chair, disturbing the visitors. Following Jean's passing in 1974, the doll and house were given to a new owner who soon realized how eerie Robert was, and ultimately gave him to the Fort East Martello Museum in Florida. Initially doubtful, museum employees quickly came to believe that Robert's curse was real. Robert kept trying to escape his glass cage as doors would unlock themselves, and soft laughing could be heard in the deserted hallways. Robert is still one of the most well-liked and feared exhibits at the museum today. Visitors are advised to get permission before taking pictures, since those who don't have had strange mishaps, unhappy marriages, and impending financial catastrophe. Every day, messages flood in, some begging for forgiveness, and some, shockingly, from kids as young as 8 who send adoring letters and even ask Robert for advice. Visit the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West if you're interested in meeting him, but be mindful of your manners, or you might find Robert waiting for you when you get home. And that brings us to the end of today's delightful story. I really hope it had you on the edge of your seat. If you liked this story, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. It means a lot to me. And if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe. There's always an exciting surprise waiting just around the corner and you won't want to miss it. Do you have a spooky story to share or a fun idea for our next tale? Feel free to share in the comments below. I'm really curious to know what gives you the creeps the most. And as always, take care, keep exploring. And remember, sometimes the most chilling tales are the ones left untold. Catch you in the next one, if you're up for it.